All right, good afternoon. Today we're testing the Spec Precision Razor HD Gen 2 1x6x24. This is a second focal plane scope, meaning the reticle stays the same size no matter what you do the magnification. What we have is the mil-radian reticle inside of it. Some things it comes with is the scope caps, as well as elevation and windage cover caps that you can remove and put back on. With the scope caps, they're flip outs. It also comes with an anti-reflection device that you can mount to the front of the objective lens just by screwing it in. And then the objective lens cap. All right, with that, the turrets are read in minute of angle. Although this is a mil-radian reticle, it gives you mil-radian increments of elevation and windage dialing, which is going to be in 0.2 mil-radian increments per dial. However, you'll have to memorize that if you plan on doing far holds, unless you can do the math to convert minute of angle so that way you can physically see it. But other than that, today we're going to zero it. We're going to run through some combat testing with it. We're going to test its durability. With that, we're shooting on a Daniel Defense AR-15 platform carbine using Spec Precision 30mm rings. And it comes with an illuminated reticle and as well as a diopter focus, which you do have to remove the scope cap to access. But once it's there, we recommend putting a paint pen mark across so you never lose it. Put the scope cap back on. All right, we're going to talk about the reticle here now. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a mil-radian reticle. This is etched glass. We ran a Tallman test and we can verify that this reticle is extremely accurate. Tallman test being measuring the increments of what a mil would be at X distance, and then from there measuring the reticle. So each line, what you see there, is equal to 1 mil distance. So you got four mils left and right. Obviously you can hold or dial more than that, and then you've got 6 mils coming down. Which gives you plenty of room to hold out to distance, as well as being that second focal plane scope. What it does offer you with the reticle remaining the same size, as you get closer in distance, it gives you the ability to maintain the full scope of the reticle there. You can see it the entire time, so that way you have a good aiming point at closer distances. All right, talking about the turrets here, we have the elevation and windage turret. As you can see, windage turret's going to be on the right side as the shooter sees it. As you can see right here, each click on these turrets for both elevation and windage is going to equal 0.2 mil-radians. So 5 clicks get you 1 mil for either elevation or windage. Now the numbers that you see displayed on the actual turrets are in minutes. So as you can see, you're going to get 50 minutes in a full rotation of this elevation turret. All right, the final knob we have on this scope is going to be on the left side as the shooter sees it. For those of you that are used to long range shooting, this is not a parallax adjustment knob. This is actually purely the illuminated reticle knob. So with that, what it does is it has a locking feature, so that way you can continuously stay on the brightness setting of your choosing. It has 6 brightness settings and then an on and off setting in between. So as you can see here, the way that you're going to implement this is by pulling this out. You see it now says unlocked. You can twist in either direction, and at the top there's going to be a dot to signify that it's off, or move to the preferred brightness setting up to 6. So that way if you want to stay on 6, you can move it 1 down, push it back in, and now it's going to stay there. So if you need an illuminated reticle, pull out, push up once, lock it back in, and now your reticle is illuminated on the brightness feature of your choosing. One of the final features we'll be talking about the scope is going to be the magnification adjustment ring. So with that, as I mentioned previously, it's a 1x6 power scope. So you're at 6 power here and 1 power here. It's very easy to turn, feels very smooth. No scraping or anything like that. You can obviously buy aftermarket parts for a throw lever if you do so desire. And with that, as you're adjusting this, what we recommend is to throw it on 6 power when you're doing your diopter focus adjustments here in the back. This is going to be your only ability to focus this scope. As I mentioned earlier, there is no parallax adjustment, so you'll be making all your adjustments here. We mentioned paint pen marking, so that way you always maintain a good diopter focus, and we always recommend you go on 6 power. All right, what we're about to do now is conduct a zero of this rifle. So some benefits that we're talking about with the minute of angle adjustments on the turret is going to be, we're zeroing at 50 yards, meaning that each click is half a minute. which means it's going to be a 1/4 inch at 50 yards. So with that, it makes the adjustment super easy as you're looking through the reticle. And the process that we're going to actually do this is by dialing the elevation and windage turrets until we get onto our desired point of aim. From there, we're going to use an Allen key bit. We're going to remove the caps and essentially float them and put the 0 back in line with the up and right lettering here. And that way it's zeroed. You can put the scope caps back on and you can not touch them and use holds. But the benefit of not just leaving it where you adjusted it at is going to be that now you can keep track of how much you've dialed up without losing your 0. You can always return back to 0, and after that you can actually utilize this reticle to hold out the distance by dialing your come ups and your windage adjustments. All right, this is our first initial group. From the bore sight, we were pretty on. As you can see, this is 6 shots just around this drawn on pasty here, roughly 1 inch by 1 inch. And the goal here is we're gonna move it right just a little bit because kind of the meat and potatoes of the group here is just a little low right. So again, based off those turrets, the nice thing of having minutive angle turrets is that it's already in inches for you, even though you're using a mil-radian reticle. So with that, since each click is a 1/2 minute or 0.2 mil-radian, and we're at 50 yards, so at 100 yards that would be 1 click would equal 1/2 inch, and since we're half that, 1 click is going to equal a 1/4 inch. So looking like we need to just move about a 1/2 inch or so, so we're going to give it 2 clicks to the right and maybe a 1/4 inch up, and then we'll shoot another group at another pasty and show you guys how accurate those turrets are adjusting and give you guys a good framework on how well this scope performs. All right, so we just shot that group. We got all the shots in and around the pasty at point aim, point impact. The ones that are out are likely just a little bit of shooter error, but from there it just shows the accuracy that the turrets are tracking at for the measurement that they prescribe on the turrets themselves. So at this point, we're happy with that 0. We're happy with how the turrets are tracking. We're now going to go ahead and float the turrets, and we'll show you how to do that, and then shoot a confirmation group in the top left pasty. Okay, so now we're going to go over the process of floating. It's pretty straightforward and easy with this scope. We're pretty pleased with how it's going to go. So as you can see, we came up to 5.5 minutes, and then we came right about 9 minutes. So the process for that, if you can't see the windage, it's all right. It's at 9 minutes right, but you should be able to see the elevation at 5.5 there. So what we're going to do now is take just an Allen key. There's a single screw here at the top. You're going to go ahead and loosen this all the way. One thing that you do need to be very careful about is you need to put a lot of pressure downwards on the turret. Otherwise you risk accidentally revving the turret and losing that 0. You want to make sure that you do not feel any clicks as you rotate this. You can take the screw all the way out, which is what we'll demonstrate just to show it's not a big deal. However, if you unscrew it enough, you can simply lift it up and turn it. But what we're going to do, so that way we can actually use this reticle and scope for some long range shooting, is we're going to put it back to 0. Just like that. The 0 is going to be lined up with the word up in the center. Screw the screw back in, and that's going to maintain our 0. And then with a ballistic solver, we're going to be able to dial up our come-ups for different elevations if we want to do long range. If you want to go ahead and just throw the scope cap the turret cap on immediately after and not float it. That's also a option. However, from there you're going to be solely reliant on holds. So we're going to go ahead and now float the windage. All right, floating the windage is going to be the exact same as the elevation. Pull it off. Again, just like the elevation, a single screw. We're going to line up the 0 mark, lined up with the word right. Going to shoot for right at the R there. All right, as you can see, we've now floated, and what we're going to do now is shoot that confirmation group at the top left pasty, and we'll show you how that looks. All right, as you can see here, we just shot 4 rounds. So this is the first shot followed by 3 shots right here, all touching each other. The first shot is just due to dirty gun, hard trigger. After that, you figure it out. But with that, we got 3 shots all touching each other, honestly, within a half minute. Obviously, that does show the condition of the weapon system, but that does go to show the accuracy of the turrets being adjusted and those clicks, and each click actually representing what it says on the turret. So we're pretty impressed. After this, we're going to go ahead and shoot a bunch of drills, put about 200 to 300 rounds through it, and then do another confirmation 0 to see how well it holds. Okay, so we're at the 10-yard line, and all we're doing is seeing what the drop is. So taking some initial shots in some groups, looking at what the mils are, and then converting that into our clicks of 0.2 increments and dialing that up. So we're at 8 minutes of angle now, just moving up about 2 mils, and from there, we're now point of aim, point of impact at 10 yards. Okay, we just finished up shooting about 300 rounds. What we're going to do now is go ahead and confirm the 0 after it's experienced quite a bit of recoil, quite a bit of running and moving, and we're going to see how good it held up. All right, so after about 300 rounds, what we saw is just a slight shift These two are just a bit of flyers, but we do have like a mean kind of group right here, just about maybe about ½ an inch low. There's a couple reasons that this could have been. Maybe it's just the amount of recoil that has kind of transformed, you know, the turret settled a little bit. But the other thing that we noticed is there's not exactly a distinct arrow on the turret to get you right back to zero. So it is possible. You got to be really cognizant of how many clicks you've moved, so you can move exactly that many clicks back. Trying to get the zero mark just in the middle of the word up on the elevation turret can be a bit of a tricky beast, so we might just have to come up a couple clicks and see if it still looks like we're on zero. And if not, then obviously we can float, but 300 rounds, not too bad of a shift, so overall pretty good.